Well, they're the ones that told me to get up here, so I thought they were ready. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Well, if it's your first time at Father's house, you got to come back another time to see the full thing, the full thing, not interrupted. I'm glad the sprinklers didn't go off. That would have been so bad. Yeah. Everything would have been destroyed. All right. I digress. There's laughter and joy in Jesus, and sometimes he lets these circumstances happen where we can just know that he cares about us and that we can laugh and shake it off, and you know what? It's not going to define us. So we're going to pray for the offering. Jesus, we bless this offering, Lord, that you would multiply it and it would continue to multiply. Amen. Multiply it. All right. Turn your attention to, I think it's me on the screen, so you get a double whammy, and we'll get ready for Miss Maria. I need somebody to help me with her thing. We need to redo the stage, actually, while Hello, church around the world. I'm Nicole Wallace, and I'm bringing you tonight's announcements. All right, Father's House, I have an exciting update from one of the ministries that we help to support in Manila, Philippines. You right there in your seats have been a huge and monumental part of this ministry. Some of you may not know it, but we sent money to Manila every month to support the orphans that they feed and give water to. These orphans being abandoned by their parents who are in prison, this ministry has taken over the feeding and taking care of. The pictures that you are now seeing is on a day where they were able to feed 295 children. What an incredible ministry that we get to support. We've also got word that they're trying to raise more money so that they can expand their ministry and reach more. Thank you, Father's House, for supporting us and partnering with us as we endeavor to change the world. Our Greatest Decades Connection group is this Friday at 6 p.m. at Steve and Vicky's. This is for anyone 40 years and older, and you just want to join us, come on up. Bring a dish to share. It is a potluck, and we can't wait to see you there. Hang out. Bring your swimsuit if you want to. It's hot. All right, Father's House, can you believe that it is almost the time of the year where we do our annual free Lord's Gym Kids Mud Run? What an incredible opportunity that you, the Father's House, along with partnering businesses and Orville, get to bless 2,200 children to run free at the Mud Run. We cannot do this without the support of you and others like you to give your time and energy during this time. June 4th and June 5th, we'll be having this mud run and bringing thousands of people from all over the region to minister to them, but also to be a light in our community. We really need your help. If you can sit, if you can stand, if you can hug, if you can love, if you're a strong man and you can be in the trenches to help these kids over the obstacles, we need you. Whatever you can give, we'll take it. Please come see us at the Connection booth and sign up to register to help us pull this huge event off. We'll see you there. And that brings me to next Wednesday night for everyone who has volunteered and wants to, who hasn't been able to yet. We are going to have a Lord's Gym Mud Run training here at church on Wednesday night starting at 6:30. Childcare will be provided and we will be separated into groups to find out exactly what our job role is so we don't come up to the mud run not knowing what to do. Pretty cool idea, huh? Well, we will see you there at 6:30, and if you have not signed up to volunteer, we can still use you. We'll see you next Wednesday at 6:30. Thank you so much, Online Church, for joining us this evening. That is all the announcements I have, but if you have any questions, please ask. Please remember to like, comment, and share on this broadcast so everyone around the world can see it. Have a good night.
Well, that takes the cake for technical difficulties. Just gotta say. My family's watching online, and suddenly they're like, where did everybody go? We're back. Hi. So good to be up here with you all tonight. I was actually supposed to speak a couple weeks ago, but caught this random cold thing that took away my voice. So Stephanie and I switched, and here I am tonight. And it's going to be an adventure because I am so thrown by that fire alarm. I am so thrown. And then watching people drive away, I'm like, no, wait, come back. I'm not going to name names. It's all good. All good. Especially if they're watching online. I'm so sorry that you had to endure that. All right. So, living with Jesus is an adventure, isn't it not? Yes. It is a total free fall into this amazing, it's like, for me at least, at times it feels like I'm stepping on this edge of a little cliff. And I'm sure to him it seems little, but to me it seems massive. And stepping on the edge of this little cliff and just hearing him say, go for it. And you have to just kind of go, all right, because he is so incredibly faithful. And he is so incredibly good. And he's looking for people who are willing to risk with him. I mean, if you read through your Old Testament and you hear the stories of the people who made a mark on history, you know, Hebrews 11 is a great collection of them, and it's called this chapter of faith, right? And it's these people who had these promises from God, but didn't necessarily see it in their lifetime. But they moved because they were sure of who God is. You know, and I think from what I get the privilege of sitting in and helping people learn how to hear Jesus and how to learn what his will is for their life as the director of the School of Transformation, it's this hesitation now to take him at his word. We reach this point, it seems, where if he tells us something, we want to go, yeah, but what about? What about this? What about that? And, you know, I was just drawn to look at what is Hebrews 11 and what does it say about what faith is? Because there's a real key feature that I feel like is on God's heart for tonight for us to remember about one of the Father's House messages. And that is that faith without works is dead. Okay? So, faith. So in Hebrews 11, verse 6, one of the first things it says, and which it always reminds me of Jordy, is when he says, he reads this one, without faith it is impossible to please God. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who seek him. So without this key element of faith, it is impossible to please God. And so then that begs the question, what is this faith? And he describes it earlier on, I just kind of switched it around on you, in verse 1. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. And we can bumper sticker that and go, yeah. But let's just break it down for a minute. Are you okay with that? We're going to break it down. Now, faith is the assurance. Some translations say it's this substance, right? And if you look even further back, it's what has a firm foundation. So this faith is this firm foundation that then from which we hope. And we have this conviction of what we do not see. And this conviction is really about this moral conviction of God is who he says he is and what he says is most important, and this not being seen is this, it's by the Spirit, not by the flesh. So it's not something that I'm supposed to see first and then move. It's something I'm supposed to hear, trust, and move, then see. Faith should result in trust. I have a Hebrew translation of my Bible, and I love reading it because it every time I read in when it talks about faith, it actually says the word trust. And I'm like, man, this is so interesting that it's so interconnected about this trust in God. And I mean, when we look at it, what has God done to break our trust? Absolutely nothing. What have we done to break God's trust? The list might take a while, right? So it is us who who are actually untrustworthy, not him. And yet we hold him to this standard of where we should be treated better than he is. And we read these testimonies of these people of great faith that said, you know what? God told me to take my family and move here. I'm going to do it. And we go, yeah, that's awesome. But so what was the outcome? Oh. Right? It's this, I don't know. I don't know what's next. And we judge that by that's a success or failure. And it's really comes down to, but are you hearing him? Are you following him? I mean, Steve has talked in the past few weeks about being in the center of God's will and how essential that is for us, because he tells us that there's going to be trials and tribulations. If you read Hebrews 11, these people went through rough stuff. I mean, the father of faith, who's tagged that, is Abraham. And what was Abraham asked? To sacrifice. But he went, okay, because he trusted in who God said he is. He didn't know how it was going to come out, but he knew God would do what only God can do. And I need to do what only I can do to show him that I believe who he says he is. Because he deserves that much. And what the next step comes from there, that's up to him. And then I go further, and then the next step that comes from there is from him. And I go further. And then before you know it, you're down on this journey where you go, only God could do this. And you're living a life that isn't one where you feel like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I tithe and I go to church and I try to do what are those boxes for kids at Christmas? Those things, I do my part. No, not Advent calendar. I'm thinking Operation, sure, all those that you all said, great job, well done. Yes, those things, right? Those things that may be like, yes, I'm doing my part. I'm contributing to society and showing that I am a Christian. When really, when we see what God looks for, is this people that are willing to go and risk with him based off of who he says he is. So earlier in Hebrews, I warned the Media Shout guys that I'm going to be all over Old Testament, New Testament, chapter 10, then 12, then anyway. So bear with me, okay? All right, so chapter 10 of Hebrews. And I was looking at verse 23. Yes? Was that the one? Oh, this one's good. Okay. Let us hold fast to the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. So this hope, remember that hope that we talked about in Hebrews 11? So he's setting this up of this faith and this hope, this things that is hoped for, is out of the knowledge of who God is and what he has put in you to do. This love and this good deeds is this setup of this is the call of what God is asking of you. This is the call of us as the body to then spur each other on, some translations say, of like this encouragement of love. Go ahead, love. Let's go out there and love, right? Let's go do something with this love. Because back in James, he talks about, if you say, oh, now here I'm doing it again. Okay, wait, slow down. I'm going to pause for a second because there's a part that I don't want you to miss later on in Hebrews 10. I told you I was thrown off by the fire trucks. Hebrews 10, verse 35. Therefore, do not throw away your confidence, which has a great reward. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of who? You may receive what was promised. For yet, oh good, it's bolded here too. Okay, let's note, it's bolded. I won't yell on the microphone. For yet, in a very little while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. He who is coming. We know who that is, yes? He who is coming will come and will not delay. But my righteous one shall live by, and if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. But we are not those who shrink back to destruction, but of those who have faith to the persevering of the soul. Faith is not clicking our heels together and hoping alone. It's not if I say it enough times, I'll believe it. There is a point of this unwavering, this conviction. And I don't want us to lose what it is to have conviction. We do not want condemnation. I am with you on that. That is from the devil. We do not want condemnation, okay? Because that means no hope. But conviction lends to what he's talking about in, I believe it's Hebrews 12, that he's talking about this discipline that he does. In this discipline, it's about this training that God wants to do in us to cause us to become sons. He wants to train us so that we can be mature and handle what he has for us. So that does not mean then that I just become a good person and I can sit back and my world is okay. But it's now I have a call and a commission on my life to now make my faith look like something. And if I want more faith, then I need to step out into, you say you're like this, let's risk a little and check that out. Instead of, well, this is just my safe little zone. This is who I know God to be, and I'm comfortable right here. What's kind about him is he will come along and he will kick you in the butt. And get you out of that little comfort zone to be like, come on this journey, get to know me. Get to actually know who I am, not who you assume I am, and not based off what your circumstance dictate, because again, this faith is this assurance, that firm foundation that is built off of who he says he is, right? And I mean, I could read you a bunch of verses from Isaiah 40 of what he talks about himself. I could probably find unending verses in here about who God says he is. Why don't I just do a couple? I mean, I printed it out and everything. So Isaiah 40, verse 12, which you guys don't have, so don't worry. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand? Or even the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket? Or weighed the mountains on scales and the hills in a balance? Who can fathom the spirit of the Lord? Or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Whom did the Lord consult to enlighten him? And who taught him the right way? Who was it that taught him knowledge or showed him the path of understanding? Verse 21, do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been told to you from the beginning? Have you not understood since the earth was founded? He sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. My way is hidden from the Lord. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel? My way is hidden from the Lord. My cause is disregarded by my God. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow weary or tired, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. And even youths will grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Come on. this is a snippet of what he says about himself. And we think at times that God cannot handle our problems. That complaining, my cause is disregarded from my God. And we so often forget that where he chooses to make his dwelling place is with you. So he's not unaware. And his goal of being with you is to transform you. That the faith that you have is a gift from him as an invitation to know him more. Because without it, it is impossible to know him, much less please him. Right? And he uses this faith and this call as a deposit of his Spirit inside of you to become people of faith that are sure of who God is, and as a result of that, have a moral conviction. A moral conviction to show the world what it is to actually be Christian. Because this is why later on James tells us, in James 2, verses 14 through 22, oh, James. James is, he gets right to it. He gets right to it. And I'll show you what I mean. What use is it, my brethren, if someone says he has faith, but he has no works? Can that faith save him? So let's pause for a second and think, okay, so he says he has faith, right? So that means then he has what he believes to be an understanding of who God is. So if he has that, but he has no works, how can that faith save him? Meaning, where does that actually come into a truth and an alignment with your life now being who God says he is? Because I'm no longer mine, I'm his, right? That is being Christian. I'm no longer mine, I'm his. My life laid down for him, my love for him, his will being done through me, which now means that I believe he is who he says he is, and I will do what he wants me to do. And that shows in what I do. So what I believe about him is demonstrated through what I do. This is what James is pointing out. If a brother or sister is without clothing and in need of daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in peace and be warmed and be filled." So nice. So nice that they recognized what they needed. And yet, you do not give them what is necessary for their body. What use is that? Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead, being by itself. But someone may well say, "You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one, you do well. The demons also believe and shudder." That one's like, ooh, to confess that there is a God, well done. Even demons do that, is what he's saying. So that can't be it. But are you willing to recognize, you foolish fellow, that faith without works is useless? Was not Abraham our father justified by works, that when he offered up Isaac his son on the altar, you see that faith was working with his works, and as a result of the works, faith was perfected. We're told not to shrink back, that he's looking for faith, that it is impossible without faith to please him, and that we demonstrate what our faith is by what we do. And that it is out of this is who God is, because we are the representation of him on the earth. What a weighty responsibility that is. You are the representation of Jesus on this earth. How are we representing him? Do we shrink back when it's things that we're like, until I'm sure, I'm just not going to just do that yet. Until you make like 5 different signs to show me this is exactly it, then I'll put my toes in the water. Or do we find out who he is? And in reading his words of what he says about himself, then go, okay, so if you are the one who makes me righteous, if you want me to be your holiness demonstrated on the earth, how does that happen? How can I now set myself up to be in line with what you're saying versus what I think? Because I can come up with a whole list of things as to why I disqualify. But he comes up with all the reasons of why he is able to do it in you. Because he also says that he is the author and the perfecter of our faith. So it comes from him, it's about him, it's for him, and we need it to be who he has called us to be. And that's one of the amazing things is he doesn't make it overly complicated. We do. One of the things I fell in love with when I came to the Father's House Church after I've been raised in church all my life. I've lost count of how many messages I have sat in since birth. Because you got to count the summer camps and then the conferences and then so millions. Anyway, but one of the things I love about the Father's House is when I came here, it became evident of how I could then be the hands and feet of Jesus. And it was simple. It wasn't this complicated thing. It was you see the need in front of you and you do it. And I was like, oh, I can do that. That I can do. Hey, and even these certain things that my specific, wiring works best for, that there's an opportunity for that too. And it just showed me how we're meant to function as a body and how necessary each person's role is. Because I think we can get caught up in thinking, well, one person's supposed to do it all, and that's, thank you, Steve. Hey, he's got it all. No, he leads, but we are supposed to be the ones. We are the ones that are to carry it in the fashion of who God has made us to be and be people of faith that demonstrate it by what we do. And in that, we can learn more about who he is. I don't know about you, but I want to know who I want to spend eternity with. Thank you. Thank you. 2 people clapped. In case it didn't pick it up on the microphone. But it's this is because the other thing I was going to read, which then I figured I was reading a bit much. I try to emphasize words to keep you all engaged so nobody's falling asleep. So far, we're good. Okay. But I was going to read Revelations 21. So rather than me doing it, I think you should. Because if you haven't already, Revelations 21 is going to highlight to you what's a-coming. Remember, we read that earlier in Hebrews where he was talking about he is faithful and he is coming. So he is coming again, and what he's coming for is to look for those who are like him, those who know him, those who have faith. This faith to go, he tells me I can move mountains, so let those mountains be moved. There is nothing impossible for my God. Do you know what he's done? Do you know what he's done? He defies the laws of physics and gravity because he's God. He made it. So of course he can be like, yeah, we're doing this. And he's desperately trying to get our attention to go, people, wake up. Wake up to live who you know that I am. And don't waver on it. Don't go back and forth and be like, well, maybe he's in a bad mood today. Well, maybe he's being favorable today because I did this. Or maybe this is human attributes, not God attributes. Read who he is. He is unchanging and he is perfect. And in that, he has called us to be people of faith. And our faith is demonstrated by what we do. And there is a hungry world out there. They may be completely blind to the fact of how hungry they are. Should that stop us? At one point, Paul's talking about, let us put in our perspective, I'm going to ad-lib this a little, but let's put in our perspective what Christ did on the cross and be grateful that we haven't actually even had to go that far yet. We haven't suffered to the point of crucifixion on a cross, so we got room to go. Paul's encouragement to us in this is to keep going forward in knowing who God is and then demonstrating that to the world around us and having the evidence of that in what we do, not just what we say. And I feel like we have become afraid to risk because maybe security is that nice little comfortable thing that we can rely on. But He is wanting to be your security. And maybe fear is one of those things that's really loud in our ear to say, you know what? Why would He do that for you? And He's wanting to be that voice in your ear saying, let's do it together. He has an answer for every single thing. But we kind of back off. And I don't want us to back off because we're living in a time where there is no time for that. He is coming. And He is looking for people of faith. Because faith is what pleases Him. It's that you know who He is, and you will not be moved off of the fact of what you know about Him. And that conviction of who He is moves you to do what's on His heart. So would it be okay to have His conviction? Are you willing to step past that little comfort bubble before He has to kick you? Are you willing to step past it and go, you know what? I'm not perfect at it, but I'm willing. Because you're the author of what faith is. And you are the one that can make it complete in me. And you want to train me in how. And I don't always get it, but I'm willing. That's what He's looking for, willing hearts. Because again, if you look at our heritage, none of them were perfect. So we fit the qualifications. We fit the qualifications. So if you would stand with me, please and thank you. And I don't know what's going on in each of your hearts specifically, but you are the faithful few that didn't get run off by the fire alarm. So let's take this. Let's take this as, you know what, God? I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand with you, and let's let Him speak to our hearts in this moment right here. And I'm going to pray over you, and I want you to just let yourself remember the last time that you heard His voice. Let yourself connect to the last time that you and Jesus had a conversation, you and Jesus had an encounter, you and Jesus were overwhelmed by His presence. And as we connect our spirit to spirit with Him, we go, Jesus, we want to be people of faith that know You for who You actually are. And we're willing to admit we don't know much. But would You teach us? And we choose to step outside of our comfort zones to walk this adventure of who You are. And we want our faith to be evident in our lives. Not just something we say, but something that is in action, that has power, that isn't dead but alive. We want our faith to be alive based off of what we're doing, because in that we bring You honor. We bring You glory. We show the world who You actually are, and You are alive and well. You are faithful and true. And You want to live in us and perfect us and train us. So if there's areas in your heart that might crowd out that ability for Him to move in, would you be willing to make space? Would you be willing to go, you know what, I confess that there's this worry. I confess that there's this fear. I confess that there's this unforgiveness. I confess that there's whatever it is. You'll know because it's not of Him. And if you're willing to just exchange it for his truth, he can move in further and you can know more of him. Because we need to fall deeper in love with Jesus. We need to be sure that we are hearing his voice so that when he calls, we can stand and walk with him and not be pulled this way or that way. So Jesus, we're here. We're standing in your presence and we're asking for you to do what only you can do inside of us. That your unseen spirit would move and increase our faith. Increase our knowledge of you. Our conviction of what's on your heart and what you want. And that when we start to stray a little bit and get into things that are not of you, that you would just whoop us right back and say, hey, just like a faithful parent would do to their kid that starts veering off the path. Nope, whoop, come on back. So Jesus, have your way in us. Are you willing to say, have your way in me, Jesus? Have your way in me. And just take this time to start speaking to him in your heart out loud, because it's now you and him. Yes, so what? There's other people in the room, but it's you and him, and he has heard your voice to have his way in you, and he wants nothing more than to have his way in you. So start talking to him, start dealing with your stuff, start shoving things out of the way that need to make space and room for him. Start whatever confession that needs to come out so that he can wash you clean, so that he can fill you with his love, so that he can fill you with his presence, so that he can fill you with his hope. This hope that he has for what is ahead for you, the reward that he has ahead for you because of your faithfulness to who he is. Wherever fear has taken hold, Jesus, we reject and renounce it. We tell it to get out. Wherever shame has tried to sway us one way or the other, we tell it to go. You are the overcomer, and we look to you, and we thank you for what you've done. And we look in expectation to what you're going to do. Amen. All right, so the altars are open. If you want to continue to do more business with Jesus, I really, really recommend it. Because once we leave this place, sometimes we get a little distracted. So let's make that point of come up to the altars. If you're up here, pastors will come around you. And thank you for the privilege of being with you all tonight.
Thank you for watching the Father's House Church Online. Make sure that you don't miss out on any of our content by liking our page on Facebook and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Help us to spread the message of Jesus by sharing this video with your friends. You can also support the Father's House financially by visiting changeorville.org. Thanks again for watching today. We